Have you ever been blindsided by a truth that makes everything you thought you knew feel like a lie? Well, that's exactly what Piers Morgan has just done, revealing a bombshell that could shatter everything we believe about Meghan Markle's pregnancy. And trust me, this isn't just another gossip column. What he's claiming has the potential to turn her entire story upside down. But what if I told you the real shock isn't just the pregnancy, but a mystery that has been hidden right under our noses for years? Right now, I know you're thinking, what could possibly be more shocking than that? Well, let me show you. You won't believe where this investigation leads and what it reveals about the royal couple. Keep watching, because what comes next is about to challenge everything you thought you knew about Meghan, Harry, and their public image. Piers Morgan has just made a revelation that is truly extraordinary. But this time, it's not just another headline or sensational joke designed to make headlines. This isn't another trivial jab aimed at stirring controversy. No, this time, Piers is claiming that he has uncovered something much more serious. Fresh evidence. Evidence so startling that it has the potential to completely unravel everything we thought we knew about Meghan Markle's entire pregnancy story. When Piers hinted at this revelation, the royal world, already known for its strict sense of secrecy and order, seemed to freeze in shock. What made this moment even more chilling was that Piers didn't merely ask a soft, polite question. He didn't tiptoe around the issue or make a light-hearted remark. He went straight for the heart of the matter with the kind of boldness that only he can pull off. He didn't just ask about it in passing. He challenged the very foundation of a story that the entire world had watched unfold for years. And in doing so, he ventured into a territory that most people were far too scared to even whisper about. He raised the chilling possibility. What if Meghan's pregnancy was real? That one sentence, those few words, might have seemed innocuous to some. But to those who know the weight of such a claim, it was just the beginning. The ripple effects of this statement reached far beyond what anyone could have imagined. What came next? It wasn't something anyone was prepared for. The path that Piers followed didn't lead him to a palace. It didn't lead him to the pristine, familiar walls of a hospital. But instead, it led him to something far stranger, something that nobody had even remotely connected to the royal family before. He found himself directed to a tiny, nondescript costume shop, a place that, to the outside world, might seem inconsequential. But to Piers, it held the key to an entirely different narrative. This wasn't a run-of-the-mill shop selling Halloween costumes or generic fancy dress attire for kids. No, this was a shop that specialized in something much more intricate and complex, a hyper-realistic prosthetic studio. They didn't just create any prosthetics. They were known for crafting custom-made prosthetic bellies, ones so realistic that they were used in major film productions, where actors needed to wear them for roles requiring pregnancy. The prosthetics were so authentic and so carefully constructed that they could move and shift naturally just like a real pregnancy belly, even under the most intense studio lights. And now, the owner of this seemingly inconspicuous shop claims that someone connected to Meghan Markle reached out. A request was made, and it was unlike anything the shop owner had ever received before. The message, as it was described, wasn't vague or casual. It wasn't a simple inquiry about what kind of products the shop had to offer. No, this was a detailed and specific commission. The instructions were so precise, measurements so exact, fitting instructions so meticulous, that only someone who understood the intricacies of prosthetic design would know how to convey them. The request was for something unusual, something far beyond what you might expect. It wasn't for a novelty item, a random prop for a show or a charity event. This was for a custom pregnancy prosthetic, built specifically to match the wearer's body, to look authentically real, and to move naturally as a real pregnancy would. And that's when the true impact of this revelation begins to hit. This wasn't just an innocent request. It wasn't a simple mistake. This was something much bigger, something carefully orchestrated to appear as real as possible, even to those who would be in the know. This was the secret that no one was ready to hear. Because if even a small piece of this story holds truth, then the implications are shattering. It could bring down everything we thought we knew about Meghan's pregnancy. The very chapter that was celebrated by the world, protected by those close to her, and believed in by millions. For years, Meghan's pregnancy was seen as one of the most vulnerable and intimate. 8 parts of her personal journey. It was something the world watched with admiration, with concern, with a sense of awe at the new chapter of life she was bringing into the world. But now, with Piers Morgan's bold claims, it all begins to look questionable. What if the entire story wasn't as it seemed? What if the most personal moment in her life, the one she shared with the public so openly, wasn't actually hers to share? And with that one simple statement, Piers Morgan didn't just spark a casual conversation. He broke open a door that was never meant to be opened. It wasn't some harmless question or a wild theory. No, it was something much more profound. A door that led straight into the heart of one of the most baffling and intricate royal mysteries the world has ever witnessed. This wasn't a toy shop for children's costumes. It wasn't a store filled with plastic masks and fake swords. No, this was something entirely different, something that could not have been expected. It was a specialized prosthetic shop, one that creates hyper-realistic film prosthetics, the kind of pieces so realistic that actors wear them under bright, harsh studio lights without anyone being able to tell the difference. These prosthetics weren't just accessories. They were designed to mimic reality to such a degree that even the most careful observers couldn't tell they were anything but real. This wasn't a simple costume shop. This was a mastercraft studio, one that produced pieces so authentic that they were essential to creating realism in films. For the owner of this shop, a message arrived. But it wasn't a casual inquiry. It wasn't a simple, polite request. No, it was a commission, a formal order that seemed to come from someone closely connected to Meghan Markle, or perhaps even from Meghan herself. The instructions in this message were not vague or general. No, they were specific, highly detailed. They included precise measurements and careful fitting instructions. It wasn't just any order. It was one that demanded professional expertise, the kind of knowledge that only someone who deeply understands prosthetic design could grasp. This wasn't a simple request. It wasn't for something trivial or temporary. This was for a custom-made pregnancy prosthetic, designed with such precision that it could be worn naturally, looked real from every angle, and moved just like a real pregnancy belly. The shop owner, who had seen countless requests over the years, was taken aback. This wasn't typical. Requests like these usually came from directors or film studios preparing for a scene, needing something to make an actor's performance appear more authentic. But never, ever had a royal connection made such a request. That detail, the fact that it came from royalty, was what cracked the story wide open. It raised the chilling question: why would someone in Meghan Markle's position need a prosthetic pregnancy belly? This, in essence, was the tipping point. The moment when the story went from being just a rumor to something far more significant. This is where the mystery began to take shape, with one critical question remaining. What was the true story behind Meghan's pregnancy? The answers to that question would, and still do, reverberate through the lives of Harry and Meghan, their relationship, their royal ties, and the image that the world believed was so carefully curated for them. And so, as Piers Morgan revealed this chilling possibility, the world was forced to confront the most uncomfortable of questions. What if everything we believed about Meghan's pregnancy was a carefully crafted illusion? And if that is the truth, what does it say about everything else? They specialize in creating entire new bodies for characters, prosthetic scars, limbs, and yes, pregnancy bellies. The detail and realism are astonishing, allowing actors to seamlessly wear these prosthetics under studio lights without a trace of artificiality. One day, according to the shop owner, something unusual happened. A message arrived. But this wasn't a casual inquiry, nor a simple request for information. No, it was a commission, an order for something far more specific. Allegedly, the message came directly from Meghan Markle or her representatives, and it wasn't vague as some might expect. It included precise measurements, fitting instructions, and technical details that only someone deeply knowledgeable in the craft of prosthetics would know how to communicate. This wasn't a quick order. It wasn't a fleeting request for something temporary. According to the shop owner, the request was for a custom-fitted pregnancy prosthetic, a belly sculpted to match the wearer's body, designed to move as naturally as the real thing, and to look as authentic from every angle as possible. It wasn't just about creating a realistic appearance. It was about making something that could pass the closest scrutiny and be worn for months without detection. The shop owner, who had dealt with countless such SDS over the years, was taken aback. Such detailed and specific commissions usually came from film studios, directors, or production companies in the midst of preparing for a scene that required impeccable realism. But never, not once, had the owner ever received a request from someone connected to the royal family. And that specific detail, the fact that it was coming from royalty, was the crack that caused the ground beneath this entire story to split wide open. Because if this request was real, it raises a question so significant that it cannot be ignored. Why would Meghan Markle need a prosthetic pregnancy belly? This, right here, was the turning point. This was the moment when the story shifted from being a mere whisper of a rumor to something far more complex, a puzzle. And at the heart of it, one glaring piece was missing, a piece that now gleamed like a warning light, signaling the world to pay attention. Every story has its moment, the instant when everything changes. The shift is inevitable, and the focus of attention pivots from one point to another. In this case, the spotlight veers away from Meghan Markle and falls directly onto Prince Harry. During Meghan's pregnancy journey, Harry wasn't just a supportive husband. He wasn't simply someone standing by her side. He was her protector, her shield, and most notably, her voice. Whenever Meghan felt voiceless in the face of relentless scrutiny, Harry was there, standing in front of cameras, speaking on her behalf, telling the world how strong, how brave, how hopeful she was, emotions that Meghan understandably struggled to express publicly herself. In the face of all of this, Harry became the embodiment of strength for both of them. He was her constant support, the one who faced the public eye for her, advocating for their family's narrative. But now, with this shocking allegation of a prosthetic pregnancy belly hanging in the air, a new question has risen, one that echoes like an unsettling bell, refusing to fall silent. Where was Harry in all of this? The truth now splits into two possible paths. Path one is simple yet disturbing. Harry knew. If Harry knew about the prosthetic belly, then he wasn't merely an observer in this situation. He wasn't just a husband supporting his wife through a difficult time. He was an active participant in crafting the narrative that the world came to believe was true. In this version of events, Harry helped present a story that was polished and presented to the world as genuine, even though it may have been built on something false. He helped protect and perpetuate an illusion, one that the world believed to be reality. This version of the story paints Harry as someone who was complicit in maintaining the fabricated narrative, someone who understood the deceit, but allowed it to continue. Then there is path two, a far darker possibility. Harry didn't know. If Harry had no knowledge of the prosthetic belly, then the implications are even more troubling. How could a man who shared his life, his home, and his most intimate moments with his pregnant wife not notice something this significant? How could something so monumental, so carefully crafted, be hidden from him? If Harry didn't know, then this story becomes one of secrecy, of decisions made behind closed doors, of a marriage carrying a fracture so deep that even the most intimate of details were concealed. What does this say about the trust in their relationship? What does it say about the kind of wall that stands between two people for such a secret to be kept? Both paths are deeply unsettling. Neither one fits with the idealized version of Harry and Meghan, the fairy tale that the world has been told. And that is exactly why this chapter of their story hits with such force. The ramifications are far-reaching, and whichever path is true, one thing becomes clear: something cracks. The couple the world once held up as a perfect example of modern royalty now appears human, fragile, and deeply complex. The questions now lie at the heart of everything. If Harry didn't know, was the secret just hidden behind closed doors, or was it something more orchestrated? Was the story that the world embraced not just a simple misunderstanding but an elaborate performance, carefully crafted to protect their image? Was it a defense mechanism, a way to maintain their narrative while grappling with the pressures of public life? As the truth begins to unfold, it's clear that everything is at stake. Not just Meghan and Harry's personal lives, but their public personas, their influence, and the entire world's perception of them. The illusion of the royal couple that everyone once admired could soon be shattered. Reputation, once seen as something they could control, might no longer be theirs to hold on to. Their story was built on public belief, trust in their authenticity. But what happens when that belief is questioned? The truth, in whatever form it may take, has the power to reshape everything. And the world is waiting for that truth to come to light, to see whether the story of Meghan Markle's pregnancy was as real as it appeared, or whether it was just another chapter in the complex web of performance and public personas. Path 1. Harry knew. If Harry knew about the prosthetic belly, then he wasn't just a passive observer. He was an active participant in shaping a polished narrative, one that appeared real, but was, in fact, carefully crafted, defended, and protected. He helped the world believe in something that perhaps wasn't true. In this version of the story, Harry is painted as someone complicit in the illusion, someone who knew about the fabrication, who understood the stakes of maintaining this facade, and chose to protect it at all costs. He wasn't merely supporting his wife. He was an integral part of a larger effort to create and sustain a story that the world came to embrace, a story that may have been carefully manufactured for public consumption. Harry didn't know. This path is far darker, and it raises even more unsettling questions. How could a man, living under the same roof as his pregnant wife every single day, not notice something so crucial? How could something so critical, something of this magnitude, remain hidden from him for so long? If Harry didn't know, it suggests that there was a secret being kept from him, something deeply buried behind closed doors. It implies a fracture in their marriage, one so significant that no one ever spoke of it, no one ever confronted it. A fracture that allowed a major part of their shared reality to be kept secret from the very person who should have known. Neither of these paths offers comfort. Neither path fits the fairy tale that the world was sold. And that is why this chapter has hit with such force, leaving a deep and undeniable impact. Because no matter which path turns out to be true, one thing is certain. Something cracks. The once untouchable couple, celebrated and adored by millions, suddenly appears human, fragile, complicated, and deeply flawed. The perfect image of Harry and Meghan, the duo that the world embraced as a modern-day royal fairytale, now seems more like a carefully crafted illusion, one that is, perhaps, not as perfect as it once appeared. For Meghan and Harry, their reputation isn't just a mere accessory or decoration, it's everything. When they stepped away from royal duties, they didn't take with them the titles, the palaces, or the centuries of royal influence that had defined their lineage. They didn't walk away with wealth, power, or even security. What they took was their story. Their narrative became their shield, their protection, their brand. It became the very thing that they could rely on to protect their identity, to gain public sympathy, and to craft a life outside of the royal spotlight. Their story was everything. Their success, their influence, their transformation in the eyes of the world, all hinged on the belief that their journey was authentic. Producers, media companies, and corporations saw the value in their emotional story. It was an investment in their vulnerability and their struggles, and in the hope that together they could redefine their lives. People weren't just following a royal couple, they were following a journey, a transformation. Millions watched as they reimagined themselves outside of royal expectations, believing in the sincerity of their efforts. Their influence, the power they wielded, wasn't built on crowns or royal heritage. It was built on the belief that they were real, authentic, that the words they spoke were true, and that their struggles were as genuine as any person's. But then, a bombshell allegation like this, especially one involving such intensely personal subjects like motherhood, vulnerability, and heartache, has the power to shake the very foundation of everything they've built. It rattles everything we've ever believed about them, about their image, and about their journey. It challenges the authenticity of the narrative they've worked so hard to craft. Every story, no matter how perfect it seems, has a turning point, a moment when the question becomes far bigger than the answer. And this is that moment for Harry and Meghan. Because if Meghan ever requested a prosthetic belly, even once, even as a hypothetical, it forces the entire world to step into a darker, more complex psychological loop. If that one question is true, then everything else falls under a shadow. Who really carried the pregnancy? Who gave birth to their children? And if those things were fabricated, what does that mean for everything we believed about them? Everything we thought was true about their lives, their struggles, their journey. What if it wasn't as real as we thought? These aren't just questions. They're foundations that were once solid, now shaking. They force everyone who's followed their journey to confront a new, uncomfortable reality. The possibility that everything could have been performed for them. These aren't small questions. They aren't just idle gossip or background noise. No, these are cracks that split right down the center of a royal story that was once believed to be unbreakable. The moment the idea of a fabricated pregnancy enters the narrative, the mind can't help but follow a singular, darker path. If the pregnancy belly was indeed fake, then what else was? What then was real? Who actually carried the children? Was there a surrogate involved? Was that kept hidden from the public? Was it a decision that was strategically concealed? Or was it something even more complicated, rooted in a deep fear of public perception, the image of the perfect family, and the desire for survival within a demanding, judgmental world? These aren't questions that prove the allegation, but they reveal something much more unsettling: the fragility of the entire narrative. Because once even one detail begins to feel controlled, once it appears that even a single aspect has been fabricated, then the whole story starts to wobble. Everything begins to shift. The exposé didn't just raise suspicions, it shattered the walls that had been built around their story. It opened doors that no one expected to walk through. And now, those doors are wide open. Doubt, in its most subtle form, is a strange creature. It doesn't rush in with anger or demand attention. It doesn't scream or make noise. No, it slips in quietly like a shadow creeping unnoticed across the floor. And before you even realize it, everything you thought you knew begins to look different. That's exactly what happened after the allegation about the prosthetic belly surfaced. People didn't riot. They didn't take to the streets in outrage. Instead, they simply paused. They stopped. And in that moment of hesitation, the story changed. The narrative that had been so carefully presented for years began to unravel. The photos of Meghan holding her pregnancy bump, once seen as heartwarming, motherly moments, now seem different. The interviews where Meghan spoke about her struggles with loneliness, her pain, and the emotional journey of motherhood now carry a layer of hesitation, a layer of doubt that wasn't there before. Doubt is not loud or aggressive. It doesn't shout or demand attention. No, it's gentle, but it's powerful. It doesn't erase memories, it recolors them. It takes everything that once seemed clear and turns it into something blurry, something hard to define. People now begin to wonder, was everything truly as it seemed? Or was there something deeper at play, something that was being performed for them? This chapter of the story isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's not about calling anyone out or condemning anyone. This is about a shift in the air, a subtle change that can't be ignored. Ed, it's the moment when innocence slips away and certainty dissolves into uncertainty, into something far more ambiguous, maybe. Once doubt settles in, it rarely leaves. It hangs in the air like a fog, clouding everything it touches, casting doubt over everything that came before it. Every great exposé has a moment, a point in time when the world holds its breath, waiting for the next chapter, the next twist in the story. And this story has now arrived at that pivotal moment. The world is waiting to see what comes next, and in this case, it's a shopkeeper, a seemingly ordinary person who could hold the key. The shopkeeper claims to have received a request, a commission to create a custom-made pregnancy prosthetic, crafted with cinematic precision. If this shopkeeper ever steps forward with proof, a receipt, an email, a photograph, or a production record, then this story won't just be a scandal, it will be a historic rupture. It will be the kind of revelation that shatters everything the world has believed about Meghan Markle's public image. It would completely redefine her story. It would be a moment so big, so monumental, that it would send shockwaves through Hollywood, through the royal family, and through every interview Meghan has ever given. It would be a historic shift in how the public perceives her journey, and her struggles. But even without tangible proof, something irreversible has already happened. The seed of doubt has been planted, and once it's planted, it doesn't just disappear. The world now watches, not for Meghan's next speech, not for Harry's next interview, but for the next piece of evidence. Once the idea of a secret enters a story, every corner of that story becomes suspect. Every word, every image, every detail is now questioned. Who else knew? How long has this been going on? Why was it kept hidden? What was the grand plan? This chapter now exists in that space between what was said and what might have been done. It's a space where illusions begin to wobble, a space where performances unravel and where the truth, whatever that truth may be, stands just beyond the curtain, ready to be revealed. And when it is revealed, the world will be watching. Not because they want to see Meghan fall, but because they want the story to finally complete the sentence it began. For now, the lights don't dim. The music doesn't fade. The curtain hasn't dropped yet, the stage is still waiting. The audience is leaning forward, waiting for the next act. And as for the story, it's only just begun. Now you may be wondering, is any of this true? Is this just another baseless rumor? Or is there something far darker at play? I want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Meghan's pregnancy was real? Or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Drop your comments below and let's discuss this unfolding mystery. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates as this story continues to develop. The truth is out there, and I'll be the first to bring it to you. The story is far from over. It's only just beginning.